super excited to welcome you to the Within You podcast, where we explore the unknowing, the liminal space, as you and I and everyone else in this world navigates between now and what's next. Yo soy Vivian Carrasco. I'm a wisdom teacher and mindset mentor based right here in Funky Town, which is Fort Worth, Texas. Hello, y'all. This is a very exciting episode for me. So exciting because this is the guest that it has been the toughest to book. Okay? And this is my first in real life interview. So without further ado, I would like to welcome my beloved David Carrasco.
Hey, what's up?
I'm just beside myself with this interview. So I am fascinated with transitions of identity, with change that is triggered on the outside that then forces us, or we choose to, suffering or choice, to change. One of the things that fascinates me about you, David, and I actually really admire, is how you navigate those transitions. And you've been navigating those since 2010, 2011, when you retired from the military. And I've seen you, evolve your identity over the last 30 years of our marriage. But what I'm here to interview about is you becoming a mountain biker, because I saw that evolution.
Whoop, whoop.
Let's go ahead and give a shout out to your YouTube channel.
And that would be Dave C. from DC Productions.
Behind the bar.
That's right.
So that's what I admire and why I wanted to bring you on. Talk to my audience and to those that are also interested in navigating transitions smoothly. Tell me, what's your secret? How did you move from, what was that journey like? I saw it from my end, but internally, how did you become a mountain biker?
Wow. So just peel the Band-Aid off right at the beginning, huh?
Yep.
You briefly talked about transition. I think a lot of it has to do with the environment, as far as your surroundings. But I'm going to be honest with you, first transition from the military to full-time civilian was pretty tough for me. Being a soldier, leader, mentor in that environment. And I was excited about taking on the next chapter. What I didn't know what it entailed. But along the way, it was, I think you've referenced it in the past, as like chasing the fire. So it was one of those things that I knew that I wanted to get involved, be physical, not the same stuff we did in the military, the push-ups, sit-ups, and run. So just getting on a bike just kind of opened me up and kind of freed my mind. And then from then on, it's just now we're gone from riding to leading a couple groups and becoming a certified mountain bike mechanic.
Yes, there's a whole setup in the garage with 12 bikes, is it?
You can never have enough bikes, trust me.
Well, speaking of the number of bikes we have, topic for another episode in a different podcast. One of the things that I see people doing and myself doing, honestly, this is sort of a confession, I guess. Instead of committing to doing the work and showing up with intensity, some people try to buy the result with either technology or tools. And I find myself doing that when something's holding me back, personally with the podcast. I won't tell you how many microphones I have.
That's funny.
I hide them in my closet so you can't see them. But how do you feel about the difference between showing up and doing the work, making that commitment, and just trying to buy your result? What's your opinion of that, or how do you see it?
Well, it's funny you talk about technology because, the mountain bike community has evolved into, the high-techy stuff. But I think it's having that baseline, first getting on the bike and then acclimate it. And then, learning about your endurance, how to ride the bike. Yeah, we've ridden bikes all our lives, but when you get on a mountain bike, it's got some different skills that you need to, have. But as far as the tech, you go down that road, just like your microphones. Oh, I got to have the best tech on the bike, the best equipment. But in reality, when you go back, you're pushing the pedals, So it was getting that baseline, knowing like, hey, I really like doing this. I like just being out in the environment. So when I say mountain biking, to me, it's like, I've described it's like therapy. So you get out there, you're on the trail, you're not thinking about stuff back home. You're not thinking about, did I do this? Did I take the trash out? You're just riding, not knowing if the trail is going to turn left or right. So you're focused in the moment. And that's what really I love about it. It gives me a peace of mind.
So what I hear you saying is that regardless of what we're into, we can all get lost in buying the tech, but it's about showing up for the ride.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that.
Cool. I'm glad you agree since, I'm married to you and stuff.
28 years. I've learned to agree a long time ago.
Well, actually, before you said yes to this, before you actually, walked up to the mic, I was looking in the back of my mind, the little filing cabinet. And if we count the years that we were dating, it was 86. So that's 30-something years.
Yeah, that's quite a long time, right?
A lot of our lives.
Well, when you say, you've been doing this for 6 years?
I have been podcasting for 6 years.
Yeah. So, I kind of went through that whole separation thing where, this is your thing. I want to be behind and support you, allowing you to buy the mics and stuff.
Allowing.
Yeah, just kidding. This is your thing. And I've seen it grown from the beginning, from a scratch piece of paper to where it's evolved now. And it's truly amazing just hearing comments, reading about it or people's feedback. And, so I didn't want to jump in. And then, you say the hardest person to interview.
To book. Yeah.
To book. And it's not that. It was just giving you your time, your space, and letting you grow with that. Same thing. We're here to support. And I just got you out here a couple weeks ago on the mountain bike doing stuff that I was like, wow. So it works both ways.
Yeah, I never imagined I'd be doing downhill.
Yeah, no.
I'm pretty good at it.
Well, yeah, hats off to you.
I don't know if you agreed with that, guys.
Well, the best piece is when we went out there and we had somebody teach you. And it's a funny story because I was trying to explain how to get on the bike, how to do some certain things on it. And when you went out there and we paid somebody to teach you, I was standing back. He was saying the same thing I was. But I guess, as you say, you hear it differently, so I knew better.
Yeah. And I think that goes for anything that we're trying to learn, that we'll have different teachers. They might be saying the same thing, but when we're ready to sort of go through that obstacle, and it was actually super tough what I was learning. It was these switchbacks, and it was really tight. So it takes lots of skill. And I think one of the reasons that it hit that time is because I had done the time on the trail to do easier switchbacks. So it wasn't that your guidance is not on point, because you are actually a really good teacher. It was that I just wasn't ready, maybe. But there is something that I want to mention and share with everyone, because if you're new to the podcast, you probably haven't heard the origin story. That little piece of paper that David talked about that he was there for. We were actually sitting in a hotel lobby waiting for Josh to fly in from college at the time when he was at West Point. And I had probably been about a year into the passageway, right? The liminal space into a new beginning. In this evolution of our identity, I've been playing around with this concept of when we're babies, first there's birth, then there's growth, then there's death. But as we evolve our identities, I'm starting to see it more of, there's a period of grieving, of death, of loss. And that's a major piece of moving into another identity. Then the growth, and you grow yourself into that rebirth. But anyway, side topic, I had personally been through that process. And that's when I heard, without words, those words, love being human. And they were born once I wrote them down on that piece of paper.
Not a piece of paper, it was a napkin.
It was a napkin.
And I think that was the coolest thing, because I was able to grab that napkin and I was able to blow it up and put it on a picture.
You did, yeah. Thank you for that. What you just mentioned, I want to sort of talk about that a little bit. Yes, you stood back in order for me to grow the podcast and do what I needed to do, but you supported me, behind the scenes. And I think that it was easier for you to support me once I had made the commitment and once I was definitive on, this isn't something that I want to do, it's something that I have to do. Do you remember those early days?
I do. I just laugh because I'm already going forward. I already have different things in my mind where, we did the podcast. Now, I don't know if you told your group, but I'm waiting for the book.
The book is coming.
And once that book comes out, and I can't recall the briefing or the class that we went to, where it was a husband and wife, and she gave her conference lecture, and I just remember keying in on her husband, and he had his suit on, he was in the back, and he had the table, and he had the books laid out front. Thought that was the coolest thing, because I envisioned myself, I can't wait for that moment. I'll be in the back trying to, get your autograph for other people to get their book.
Awesome. So we're claiming that vision. That's going to happen eventually. The book is coming. If you have not joined the book list, there's a list on the website where you can add your email and your name and get updates, irregular, occasional updates. So you can get it behind the scenes as a book comes to life. So Yes, that will happen. And actually, that leads me to my next point. One of the things that I see, because it's easy for me to see you transition, and it seems easier in my mind for you. And I was thinking about that. The reason I think that it's easier is because you do time on the trails. Like you have a full commitment and then you do the frequency. You get out there. I think the difference between the way that you embody a new identity, like becoming a mountain biker, and the way that I do, like becoming a podcaster, isn't so much about frequency, because I find myself often having dry spells, right? Like stops and starts. But I do have persistence. Like you said, I've been at it 6 years. What's your opinion of the difference that we move through that transition or that change and how we work towards things?
I think we constantly have to challenge ourselves, hold ourselves to a higher standard. And, I might be riding the same trail, but I kind of glanced down at my watch and I was like, okay, so I know I did it in 32 last time. Maybe I can do it in 30. I can do it in 28 or something. So, I mean, it's just that constantly, I feel like got to have that, just to hold myself accountable. Or, some days you just want to go out there and just chill and have a nice ride. It's just challenging, just kind of keeping it going, trying different changes, trails. So to me, it's like, I couldn't imagine this past year, riding trails in Oregon, Colorado. They're all different. So what's made me, I feel, a better rider is, just consistently riding and challenging myself to those different trails.
Yeah, you're really great about frequency. And I think I'm better with persistence, just the resolve to keep going until I get it done. Different strokes for different folks, right? One of the things that I wanted to mention to you as the audience, if you are moving through a transition, that there's often a squat before there's a leap. Like imagine yourself squatting down to jump. So was there a period, David, for you when you were beginning to ride bikes and forming this identity of being a mountain biker that felt hard or slower to see progress?
Yeah, and it goes back to that military concept. We have a thing that's the crawl, walk, run phase, and get on a bike, just making sure this is something I like doing, and it's like, okay. And, I remember picking up a bike from a yard sale. And what I love, is passing on what I've learned from the beginning, getting the right equipment, not getting that equipment, trying to save some money, offering my bikes to other people. Definitely just kind of taking it slow, and then checking yourself along the way before you can take that next leap.
I don't see you taking things slow. I think they happen pretty fast for you. One of the things that has happened, like you have your YouTube channel, you've gotten some sponsorships, people with merch and that sort of thing. And I also see you, from what I see, right, from where I sit, that you've become a part of the community. Like people recognize you on the trail, people reach out to you, so how did that happen?
Itself, what you just said is, you can't even describe that feeling, getting people on the right bikes, just kind of talking to them, offering advice. I can be out there and some kids are trying to fix their bike and I said, hey, do you need this? And they'll look at me and kind of laugh and they're like, yeah, do you have that? But it's a tight community in the mountain bike community. We're all riding bikes. We got some adrenaline guys that are out there just, hitting the trails. But I mean, to me, it's just that satisfying feeling of, hey, do you need help? Or just so I can offer, a tool. Hey, this equipment's working great for me. As they say, it's not always about the green, but it's just getting that wow, that feeling, people asking for advice or help.
Yeah, and I think they do that because they see that you are open to helping and that you do share what you learn and how you learn it as much as you can. And there's been a lot of learning over the last year. Would you agree?
I totally agree. I am not mechanically inclined, but I took that, that mentality of, hey, I really like riding bikes. And, so you have a piece of equipment, you take it into the store, the guy looks at it and he just tweaks it a little bit and he says, hey, that's $40-$50. And I was like, oh, hold on. So that's, something that I decided I want to be the guy that's doing the little tweaking and doing that and, just kind of passing that off.
Yeah. That squat before you leap, thinking you couldn't do it and then you did do it.
Here we go.
One of the things that, because this podcast is about navigating change, and there's one thing that we can count on in life, right, is things changing on the outside. When things change on the outside and you're ready internally, then it's going to create a transformation inside. One of the things, and this is a bit of a pivot, but I got to take advantage of having you on the mic, over the course, he's scared. You should have seen the way he looked at me. So we've been married a few decades, and over the course of 20 of those years, you were active duty military. And there's I often tell people when I'm talking about our relationship and our marriage that every time you came back from a deployment, you were a different person in a different way. And you and I both, and you alluded to it with the podcast and with what I've been doing the last 6 years, but we have given each other enough space so that we can grow into the next evolution of ourselves. So I noticed that that's one of the things that you're just good at, taking experiences on the outside, internalizing them, and then allowing them to make you better. What do you see from that?
Well, every time like being away from my family or deployed or, sitting out there 10 months, to me, it was just time that I didn't have, that I didn't spend with the boys or you. So when you come back, you're just, you kind of want to have those moments where you're like, I need to make the most of it. I need to keep going forward. Or, that year being deployed, coming back, you just can't control things when you're away like that, especially in that type of, environment. It just gave me more of a appreciation of life. This is what's, given to you. So, make the most. And that kind of leads me to that little hashtag I always use, live your life, because you just never know. So when I'm hitting that trail, we never say, hey, we're going to one more ride, one last ride. We never say that because that's when something happens. So we either just, hey, we'll hit it again tomorrow or something. But definitely just being more appreciative of my surroundings and coming back. And then the other part is just seeing how hard work, everything that you did while I was gone. I was like, man, I don't know. I think it was harder here.
I'm not going to disagree with that, but I'm kidding. Deployments have everybody, every situation has its own pros and cons. I mean, I was the one with the kids when they were kids because they're grown men now.
Yeah. When I got back one deployment, I remember one of the boys, I'm not going to tell you which one, he would just happen to be peeing sitting down.
Oh, really?
So I was like, hey, we need to change this, man. So we went out and got the Fruit Loops of the Cheerios, and I said, hey, we're going to change this up. And it was just kind of funny. Just a quick story there.
I don't know if they'll appreciate that being on the air, for hundreds and thousands of downloads. But one of the things, there's another pivot. Like there's evolution in our identity, like what people see us on the outside and how we see ourselves. Like I see myself as a podcaster now. Over the last year, you've become a mountain biker. The evolutions in identity and still looking the same outside, but being different people within our marriage, like 3 decades. We're not the same people we were at 18 or 38, And then you just mentioned another transition that I think is important. So this is the all-in podcast right now. This is the episode that talks about everything. Another transition that we have to navigate, us personally, and I think a lot of people that may be listening, is mentally allowing the growth of our children into adults. Like you just called them boys. We use the word kids, but in reality, they are both grown men. Like, what would you say to other parents who haven't raised their children already? And I know that, so here's what I'm trying to get at. I really make a consistent effort to navigate that change, to call them men, to not think of them nostalgically, as nobody knows more than me how much I loved the ages, all the ages. I loved being a mother, but being a mother of grown men is different.
I totally agree, especially with their ages now where, been their father, been their mentor, and now it's like they're my best friends. So it's just that little pivot thing where, yeah, the respect, that's my father, but yet, we're out there hitting the trails and we're doing riding bikes. We're like, hey, check this out. So we're best buds. Just, you got to be honest with them. You hold them accountable and don't lie to them because they'll see right through it. These guys, or as you say, these men will. But also, and it's pretty cool because I think I heard Josh had said something to you the other day where he's like, Dad was, just talking to me about something. So even our discussions have kind of like, hey, what do you think about this, Josh or Jake? So I respect their opinions as well. And it's never been one way, early on. Yeah, as a father, it's like, hey, do this because this is, what's got to get done. But now I'm like, hey, so right now I'm living the life. Boys are out there with me. We're out there running. We're out there riding bikes. And like I say, this past year, there's certain trails that I wouldn't even thought about riding if I didn't have Josh with me riding, And, he doesn't like when I'm in the front and I'm leading.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you just hold them accountable. Also, you got to, let them sort of fail, so they kind of will be there. But yeah, this is great.
Yeah. And what I hear you saying is that it's not a one-way street, that you give them room to give you advice and to share their opinions with you. So maybe that's what contributes in a way to there being the respect of a father and a mentor, but also the camaraderie of a friendship.
Absolutely.
And actually, you guys have a connection because you served and both of them have served too.
Oh, yeah. Both of them have. And I remember those deep conversations. Jake, I got to tell the funny story.
Which one is this?
Yeah, I know. So, Josh, he went up to the academy up in New York and, he graduated from West Point. And along the way, Jake's a senior and, he gave me some great, I want to say some West Texas state championship football. And it was just like, hey, is this something you're going to want to continue? Or, he just said, no, I want to go to school, but I also want to serve. And I said, okay. So we took him up to West Point and he walked around and, he looked at stuff and he came back and he says, nope, this isn't for me. He says, I want to go back to college. He says, I want to join a frat and I want to be able to drink beer.
He said those exact words.
Well, I'm adding the ad-lib, the drink part, but, and I said, okay, we'll get this figured out. And then, along the way, he said, hey, but I do want to serve. Grandpa served, you served, Josh served. And, so we got him into the National Guard. And let me tell you, I'm looking at a sign outside the house that says 2020 graduate, so I know it's been a long journey for Jake. Off the bat, graduating high school, going to basic training, coming back. So he was down one semester when his traditional group kept going forward. I think midway, he got called up for the hurricane support. So that was another semester that he was out. So when you put 2 semesters, he was out a year. So now he's graduating, but he kept going forward.
He did. And as a mother, it wasn't easy for me to see him make that choice because not only did he, I support them. What are you thinking? I support them obviously serving, but Jacob wanted to go all in and he was a
scout reconnaissance.
19 Delta?
Yeah, it was a Calf Scout. So
it's called crazy is what it is.
And so, yeah, he comes home with I said, hey, what job did you get? And he's like, Vivian's thinking he's going to be,
I don't know, librarian. Anything.
Yeah, librarian, right? So then I said, take a breath. And I said, let me see if I can go in there and soft sell it to your mom and let her know. And the first words were, and you let him do this?
Yeah, 19 Delta wasn't easy to swallow. Their training is being in front of the infantry.
Yeah, being dropped across enemy lines and providing reconnaissance. And
yeah, that sounds even better.
I've said too much.
Yes, you have. Okay, so we need to transition at this point.
Okay.
No more Army talk.
No, that's gone.
Well, you mentioned Jake and his football career, and it was a big part. So maybe we can, we've never had this conversation before, so it'll be interesting to hear from your side. But one of the things I noticed even about Jake is that he transitions identities in the same way you do. When being a football player and being a football player in West Texas, with 4 or 5 or 6, how many do they have? Like 10 back-to-back state championships now?
Yeah.
He had the ring, he had the, Letterman jacket, he had, the whole camaraderie around that. And as soon as high school was over, that identity left with it. He's never put that jacket back on. He's not the kind of person who reminisces about the old days. Well, what's your opinion of that?
I think once again, it's that, going forward, holding yourself accountable, saying, hey, I need that's great. For me, I was loving it and, reliving it. But Jake, he was ready to go, get in school and trying to figure this out. But good point. It was a, transition for him. But Jake being Jake.
Well, you and Jake, you guys have a real talent around that. One of the metaphors, the mind pictures that came up as you were talking is, both of you guys are really good drivers. Josh, you're a good driver too. All y'all are good drivers. But is the idea of you guys spending most of your focus and attention when you're on the road, looking forward, right? Where you're going and what's surrounding you, and less time looking in the rearview mirror. And that's kind of how I translate the way that you and Jacob move through your transitions and your identities is you focus a lot more time moving forward than looking back in the rearview mirror.
And I think, driving as well, when I'm behind the wheel and I have passengers, I'm like, hey, they're entrusting me with their safety to get them from point A to point B. So I kind of look at that as well through my transitions. And it's just like the mountain biking thing. Here we go again, getting you on there. First thing I was like, oh, you need a helmet, you need knee braces. You need protection because, I want you to have fun, but I also want you to be safe doing it as well.
Perfect. So David, if there are young military families that are listening to this, or there's a soldier who is about to retire and they're kind of scared about that transition of leaving that society, because it is a bubble within a society. It's a completely different culture. Based on your experiences, what kind of advice or guidance or tips would you share about that transition for them?
I would say start preparing now. Don't be scared. And I think that was one of the things that you brought to the table, was helping us, with that transition as far as, the family, the financial, it's going to be all right if you're not wearing the uniform. There is life after that. But also looking at your careers, one day we're stationed in Fort Hood. Hey, we're leaving to Germany. Hey, we're going to Virginia. So I was the one uprooting you along the way, but also seeing like, hey, this can be done. It's hard, but definitely can be done. So, in that financial thing, I know it's hard, especially in a time right now, is one of the abilities that you said, hey, don't ever let the paycheck control you. And that was hard for me because I, being the provider, knowing that we had to put food on the table and survive, bills, everybody's got bills. But that was one thing where you build up your little nest egg, and it gave you that flexibility saying, hey, we're going to be all right. We got a 4 to 6 month, time frame. So that really kind of helped me out. So definitely prepare, and there is life after the military. Trust me.
Is it better than you imagined?
It's still going.
Yeah. One of the things for me, when you talked about, so now we're getting into the whole bit about career transition, and I'll leave this little jewel or nugget because we touched on it. I did transition, a lot of time throughout my career. What I'm doing now, I consider my vocation, which it's meaningful at all sorts of levels. It's what I feel like I'm meant to do. But in reality, the thread of what I'm doing goes all the way back. I remember in the early 2000s, right when we got back from Germany, 97 maybe, 96. And I was working with soldiers transitioning out of the military and with military wives in their careers as they were transitioning in. So the idea of transition and navigating change, we both lived it in those decades, while you were active duty. And I feel like what I'm doing now is just a bigger echo, right? An ecosystem of that thread that's kind of gone on for the last 30 decades. 30, not 33. 3 or 4, however long, because I'm not good at math, however long from mid to late 90s to present is. That seed, that nugget of helping people move through change has always been with me, even though the jobs, the titles, and the locations have changed. So it's nice to also, in addition to looking forward and focusing your attention on moving forward the way that you do, David, I think for me, it's meaningful to also look back and see how all those dots connect.
Absolutely. It's that whole never forget where you came from type of mentality. Titles and positions will come and go. But
one of the things, and here I'm going to challenge you a little bit about that, because never forgetting what you come from, like our culture, the way that we're raised, it does travel with us.
Absolutely.
But I think that we do have to, in a way, put aside what we've been taught and how we've been raised. Because in my opinion, we don't let go of those rituals and those anchors to our identity, like what we do, like the things that we do every year as a family that bring us together. But we've had to let go of a lot of, I think, beliefs that we might have had when we were younger that really don't apply to us. I mean, part of that is, me growing up, neither of my parents had finished high school. And, I was living in the projects for, part of my youth. And when we moved into this house, this was a tough transition for me. So I feel like in that way. So what's your opinion of that? Like, I think we bring forward what's beautiful about our culture and what's beautiful about our lives and our traditions. But there's some things that we do have to let go of.
Oh, I totally agree. You do let go. So I guess when I say you don't forget, it's there. But also, process for me is, I've got the kids, I got the boys, I got the men. How do I wish my parents would have been with me, or my relationship with my father? So I always kind of flip it, like, hey, this is what I would have wanted, or this is what I expected. And then in return, that's what I try to apply with them, try to fill that void. Because to me, the reminder is like, okay, so if my dad didn't do this, do that, that didn't make me feel good, or how did that impact me? Well, let me not do that for the boys, for the guys.
Mm-hmm.
So, reminder, yes, but grow from it and move on. Make it better. Always building.
I like that. So focus on moving forward and keep building.
Absolutely.
So that you can continue to grow. And it's one thing that I think you and I both are on the same sheet of music, have the same like core beliefs around, is that we believe that the growth, like we will always grow. Like it doesn't end at an age. It doesn't end at a status. It doesn't end at a certain number in the checkbook. You and I believe, this is what I believe about us. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Oh, I will.
That we'll continue to grow in hobbies, in learning. Like that's just what all humans are like driven to grow, to move forward in some way.
Well, it's like, I said, hey, all I want to do is just ride bikes. Okay. And then all of a sudden, well, I want to do a little bit more than ride bikes. I want to learn about them. I want to grow. I want to fix them. So definitely, yeah, so now, okay, what's next now?
Leading groups?
Yeah, that's exactly. So Vivian finally let me have my little area in the garage, and it's the coolest thing when you have neighborhood kids come up and say, hey, mister, are you the bike guy? Can you look at my bike and, kind of fix it? And it's just, like I say, it's going back to that, that feeling like, yeah, I got you, Yeah,
I really do respect that about you. You've been able to embody, completely own this identity, and it really shows in the community you've built and people seeing you as that is who you are, and then you building your skills. So I really applaud you for that, because I was sort of joking once. David gets offered jobs and he gets referrals by word of mouth. And I'm like, how do you do that? Like, I want that to happen for my work. And in reality, it does. It just doesn't happen as often and as in my face as it does for David. So I really respect how you've owned this identity and how much you're giving back to the community, and just really how you put on that new suit. Maybe it's not a BDU, right?
Right.
What are those suits called that mountain bikers wear?
It depends on what type of trails you're trying to ride, but yeah.
Is it a jersey?
Yeah, they're jerseys or just pants and stuff.
In his mind, I'm sure he's thinking of all the different kinds of rides and different types of.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a jersey. Put on your bike jersey.
Okay.
This has actually been fun.
Has it? No, this has been great. And like I say, I know it's been way too long, and, you brought it up here a couple times, and, just not being nervous and just coming out and just doing this. So
and being yourself.
Yeah, this is awesome.
I think you're pretty cool.
The feeling is mutual.
I would hope so. Well, so if somebody's interested in learning more about dirt biking, mountain biking. No, it's mountain biking, right?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
Mountain biking.
Or just bikes in general.
How do they find you?
They can hit me up on my channel, my Insta. I got Dave Behind the Bar. And I've got my YouTube channel, which is DC Productions.
What do you do on your YouTube channel?
This is pretty good. I'm learning a lot. I can talk, but I think with that type of platform, I'm able to reach out a lot more people. So better get in now when you can. You always hear that, hey, subscribe now. But I think my thing is doing product reviews, kind of sharing my experiences, talking about certain trails. Just told you today I wanted to actually do a video on knee braces, because I've been seeing a lot of riders out there in the trails and they don't even have any protection. And, next thing you know, something happens. So we've got like 10, 12 pairs.
Oh my gosh. You said we had every brand that exists.
Well, different protection levels.
So product reviews.
Yeah, just product reviews. And the other thing is just doing some quick tutorial videos. You'll be amazed. Somebody hits me up and said, hey, can you help me out change a flat? Explain it to me. And I'm like, absolutely. Let me show you some quick tips on how to do that.
Perfect. Yeah. You guys, if you're interested in following David and his adventures on the trail, then hit the subscribe button on DC Productions on YouTube.
Correct.
So what has been your favorite trail so far?
I like going up to Mount Ashland to Oregon. It's just an amazing trip. I know we did it. I did it twice, one last year and then this year. After riding it the second time, it's not as scary. The first time I remember getting off that trail, the first thing I did was call you when I got down from downhill. And, after I go back and think about it, I'm like, what did I just do?
Right. Yeah.
So riding it the second time, I was able to take it in and not, so within a year, your skill level, gets better. So, or it should, but wasn't scared. I was able to enjoy it. And especially I was able to do it with both my boys.
Yeah, I enjoyed that too, even though I didn't take the downhills.
Right.
That was good. So Mount Ashland is your favorite downhill?
Yeah, as of right now.
As of right now, there's always an adventure on the horizon.
Exactly. Not settling, remember?
The grass does not grow under our feet, I've heard people say.
Have your bags ready.
Well, it has been an absolute joy to interview you.
Woo woo.
Thank you for joining me on the mic. This is my first in real life interview with the hardest guest it's been to book, my own husband, David Carrasco. I'd really want to thank you for listening, sharing a little bit of our lives and David's journey to becoming a mountain biker. And I hope that it adds value to your own journey as you're maybe navigating change or uncertainty or confusion. And one of the things I want to reflect back on that I briefly mentioned as we were talking is the squat before you jump. You know, just if you happen to be in the dip, you know, if you're squatting for that leap, then recognize that that's where you are and look forward to what's next. You know, maybe take some tips either from David or from me, depending on where your experience is. But always remember that you are your own best teacher and that there is no way to navigate this change without actually going through it. So you don't learn how to ride a bike by reading about it on books, right?
Right.
You got to get on the trail.
Get on the trail. Get out there.
Get out there. So that's kind of where I want to close. If you're moving towards some identity that you want to become, whether it's becoming a writer or a teacher or whatever identity you're about to try on, like get out there and do it. That's the best, I want to say, advice that we have to give you.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be embodied. Your body has to experience in order for your brain to believe it. So thank you again for joining me on the Within You podcast.